Hi guys, happy Saturday. So, we're going to go into the Christmas ghost stories again, and then this is actually from the Paris Review. So it's pretty interesting, a lot of lost literature, English literature from Christmas times, Christmas past, of ghost stories. So this is why people tell ghost stories, the great English tradition of Christmas ghost stories. So it's pretty interesting. And then we have a couple of snippets from ghost stories that are really interesting. So, alright, so this is from the parisreview.org. Alright, now this goes on to say that I've long thought of Christmas time as a season of mostly pleasant intrusions. Pleasant intrusions. That's kind of ironic. I don't know. Okay, so 30 or so days of remembering to tend, checklist style, to the latest pressing bit of Yuletide. Business that comes racing back to you. The well wishes, the trip to the Home Depot, the seasonal ales. What does the Home Depot have to do with anything like this? So this is the Fezziwig side of Christmas. Oh, okay. So that portion that makes you look up the word wassail when you encounter it and think, that would be fun. But what of the darker elements of Christmas? And what of Christmas for those who enjoy making merry most years, but may have hit upon a bit of a tricky patch? I can't even fucking talk. What succor of the season might they find at the proverbial inn? I can't talk today. So, having experienced both sides of Christmas, there is but one constant I am aware of that serves you well both in the merriest of times and in the darkest, the classic English Christmas ghost story. You'd think Halloween would be the holiday that elicits the best macabre stories, but you're going to want to check that opinion and get more on the snow miser side of the equation. So, time was the English love to scare you out of your mind come December, but in a fun way that resulted in stories well afield of your typical ghost story outing. So it's pretty dark. I like it. I love a dark Christmas. This is exciting. I'm gonna have to break out some really dark Christmas music. Alright, but if you're into ghost stories, you probably know that that M.R. James is held as the master by most. His thing was to write a tale for Christmas, invite some of his fellow Eton dons and favored students into his rooms, and read it over candlelight after everyone had been plied with eggnog. Alright, sounds like a good time. Readings for the season, but not really of the season. There's not a lot of actual Christmas in James's story. So it's interesting. So writers of ghost stories, James included, love to make authoritative lists about what makes such stories work. So they offer spectral prescriptions that, as you might gather, rarely hit upon the same guidelines, and then they tend to violate these notions with their own work. But I like the spirit of that end of the war, a naughty, nice list for the spooky crowd. And as someone who devours Christmas ghost stories in the happiest of years, and who turns to those Christmases when the glimpsed mistletoe kisses of new lovers are akin to sprigs of holly jabbed at the temple. I have some ideas of what you want when it's time to settle with your eggnog, dim the lights, turn some pages. So the first key to a Christmas ghost story is a convivial atmosphere. So people in these stories are well fed. They're often hanging out in groups. You feel like you're hanging out with them, and you do not wish to leave any more than they do. So it's cold outside but warm in here, and it's time to rediscover that sense of play that so many of us adults lose over the years, and which, when we are fortunate, we remember to rediscover it at Christmas. I never lost it, so whatever. So next, a game might be proposed, say a game of telling stories. What about the Ouija? That's popular. Then comes the terror. The status quo is infused with the sensation of something being a touch off. Chuckles give way to shared, uneasy glances, that maybe this isn't all merrymaking, but this isn't the terror of Lovecraft, or of impending doom, or the horror that indicates our fundamentally base natures. It's rather more pleasing terror. The ghosts, even when they mean to avenge themselves upon us, also seem to have dipped into a nog a time or two. So, with their own playfulness and evidence, sure, they can kill you, but they do so with a joke or two at the ready. I like that. I mean, I think that's very interesting. It's kind of cute. So, alright, so these are the short stories of the year, and a weird admixture of pagan habits and grand religiosity obtains. So there is also booze. People didn't have TVs. People drank. People go to telling tales. Someone told a tale and someone tried to tell a bigger one. And then, lo, we got a whole ghost story Christmas tradition. Very interesting where the ghost Christmas story traditions come from. So, but even if even if you're into this stuff, there's a decent chance that you've not read any of these oft overlooked Christmas baubles. Stories which have always made me feel grateful for their company, blending themselves to my mood and need and wishes in ways that nothing else quite has. They're also dead good fun. So saddle up some Perry or Mead. Ooh, what is Perry? I've never heard of that. Perry or Mead? Where'd I go? Or just grab a Bud Light and allow me to recommend these ghostly tidings. So we have Between the Lights by E.F. Benson, and this is from 1912. So this tale is set on Christmas Eve and looks back on the one of the year before. So when our host had a vision of primal, shack-entombed beasts advancing upon him as he sat out on the lawn and watched his wife and a good friend play croquet? Is that right? Croquet, I think. The creature's advance paralysis has set in, and it is by a Christmas mercy that the hold is relinquished. Daytime haunts can seem even less natural than the midnight variety. So, and this one proves pretentious when the vision is actualized after a fashion, before we all collectively shudder and call for more mulled cider, the tale complete. So that's one of them. Now we have The Kit Bag by Algernon Blackwood, 1908. Ooh, Blackwood. So, alright, we have all been in the position of racing off for the Christmas holiday, fretting that we've forgotten to pack something. In the story, a law clerk, whose boss just cleared a murder, is packing what he believes to be the travel bag said employer had lent him. But the holidays can be misleading. I know, my Siri goes off too, Anthony. It does. My Siri goes off at night, and I have to wake up in the middle of the night at about probably 3:30 every morning. She goes off. How can I help you? I can do that. So, alright, where did I go? Okay, and one man's to-me luggage can be another's sack to lug around a severed head in. Again, there's that notion of warmth of looking forward to things. Our man wishes to chat up the ladies back in the lodge of his ski holiday and affability. You want this guy to be okay. Alas, he's ripped open from stem to stern and bleeds out as the clock chimes in Christmas. Only kidding, dear reader. A very good thing about a great Christmas story is that you will be frightened, but the new people you have come to care about tend to live to see another Christmas. I like it. I think it's cute. A Strange Christmas Game by J.H. Riddle, 1863. Ow. So, even spook story enthusiasts tend not to know that a goodly amount of Victorian ghost fiction was written by women. So, thank you, ladies. Maybe the majority of it. So, Mrs. J.H. Riddle was one of the best ghost story writers of her time, period. And in Strange Christmas Game, we have that idea of play again. And only now it's the ghosts who are trying their hands at sport. So cards of sport, cards as it were. A brother and sister have recently taken possession of a house willed to them, and the demise of their benefactor plays out like some horrible Woggybon Mummers act. So we have that. Now we have Christmas Reunion by Sir Andrew Cattlecott, 1912. So this one comes from a volume called Not Exactly Ghost, an apt summation of Cattlecott's approach. The thing is, in his history, could kind of happen on their own. Again, we begin at a family holiday party, but there's a guest who's a prick. Alright, it's this holiday. Alright. Where'd I go? Okay, everyone is pleased when he leaves, and wouldn't you know it, he heads out at the same time as Santa Claus, or rather, the Santa the family thinks is hired to put on an act for the kids. So the prickish guest, we learn, did his uncle a bad turn once upon a time, and this Father Christmas knows about it. So worse still, he's an avenging Father Christmas. Santa is the ghost of this story. Maybe or not, because Santa could just be pissed off kin. So you get to riddle it out for yourself. So we have Smee by A.M. Berg, 1931. These are interesting. I love these. My personal favorite at this party, we're playing a form of hide-and-seek in which the seeker advances upon the hider and says, "It's me," which, uttered quickly and breathlessly enough, becomes Smee, 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 Smee. So if you say it fast enough. So it's Christmas Eve. This is a big, old, rambling house, but one tiny problem. There's an extra player who does not number among the guests. A sort of moral. Downing the nog and playing hide-and-seek can make you want to pull a Scrooge. Reading this story, like drinking too much nog, would be enough to have you cancel Christmas next year. If only it wasn't so much fun to get messed up on the stuff. That's exciting. That's really exciting. I like that. Smee. I wonder what Smee is. Ooh, so Smee is Scary Ghost by A.M. Berg, or however you want to say that name, I don't know. A group of young people who play a game of hide-and-seek in a haunted house where a young girl died. So here's the story. So, Smee. "No," said Jackson, with a decrepitory smile. "I'm sorry, I don't want to upset your game. I shan't be doing that because you have plenty without me. But I'm not playing any games of hide-and-seek. It was Christmas Eve, and we were all a party of 14, with just the proper leavening of youth. We had dined well, it was the season of childish games, and we were all in the mood for playing them. All, that is, except Jackson. When somebody suggested hide-and-seek, there was a rapturous and almost unanimous approval. So his was the one dissentient voice. So it was like Jackson to spoil sport, or refuse to do as others wanted. Somebody asked him if he was feeling seedy. "No," he answered, "I feel perfectly fit, but thanks." He added, with a smile, which softened without retracting the flat refusal, "I am not playing hide-and-seek." "Why not?" someone asked. He hesitated for a moment before replying, "I sometimes go and stay at a house where a girl was killed. She was playing hide-and-seek in the dark, and she didn't know the house very well. There was a door that led to the servants' staircase. When she was chased, she thought the door led to a bedroom. She opened the door and jumped, and landed at the bottom of the stairs. She broke her neck, of course." So we all looked serious. Mrs. Fernley said, "How terrible." And, "Were you there when it happened?" Jackson shook his head. Sadly, "No," he said, "but I was there when something else happened. Something worse." "What worse? What could be worse than that?" "This was," said Jackson. He hesitated for a moment. Then he said, "I wonder if any of you have ever played a game called Smee. It's much better than hide-and-seek. The name comes from It's Me, of course, perhaps. You'd like to play it instead of hide-and-seek. Let me tell you the rules of the game." Alright, here are the rules of this game. So every player is given a sheet of paper. All the sheets except one are blank. On the last sheet of paper is written Smee, S-M-E-E. Nobody knows who Smee is except Smee himself or herself. You turn the lights out, and Smee goes quietly out of the room and hides. After a time, the others go off to search for Smee. But of course, they don't know who they are looking for. When one player meets another, he challenges him by saying Smee. The other player answers Smee, and they continue searching. This kind of sounds like the clap game from The Conjuring. Alright. But the real Smee doesn't answer when someone challenges. The second player stays quietly beside him. Presently, they will be discovered by a third player. He will challenge and receive no answer, and he will join the first two. This goes on until the players are in the same place. So the last one to find Smee has to pay a forfeit. It is a good, noisy, amusing game. In a big house, it often takes a long time for everyone to find Smee. Perhaps you'd like to try it. I'll happily pay my forfeit and sit here by the fire while you play. It sounds good. It sounds like a good game, I remarked. Have you ever played it, Jackson? Yes, he answered. I played it in the house that I was telling you about. And she was there? The girl broke. No, said someone else. He told us that he wasn't there when she broke her neck. Jackson thought for a moment. I don't know if she was there or not. I'm afraid she was. I know that there were 13 of us playing the game, and there when only 12 people in the house. Ooh. And I didn't know the dead girl's name, but when I heard that whispered name in the dark, it didn't worry me. But I tell you, I'm never going to play that game again. It made me quite nervous for a long time. I prefer to pay my forfeit at once. So we all stared at him. His words did not make sense at all. Tim Vouse was the kindest man in the world. He smiled at us all. So, this sounds like an interesting story, he said. Come on, Jackson. You can tell it to us instead of paying a forfeit. Very well, Jackson said. And here is his story. Have you ever met the Sangstons? They are cousins of mine, and they live in Surrey. 5 years ago, they invited me to go and spend Christmas with them. It was an old house with lots of unnecessary passages and staircases. A stranger could get lost in quite easily. When I went down there for Christmas, Violet Sangston promised me that I knew most of the guests. Unfortunately, I couldn't get away from my job until Christmas Eve. All the other guests had arrived there the previous day. I was the last to arrive, and I was only just in time for dinner. I said hello to everyone I knew, and Violet Sangston introduced me to the people I didn't know. Then it was time to go to dinner. So that is perhaps why I didn't hear the name of a tall, dark-haired, handsome girl. Handsome girl? Okay. Whom I hadn't met before. Everyone was in a rather hurry, and I am always bad at catching people's names. She looked cold and clever. She didn't look at all friendly, but she looked interesting, and I wonder who she was. I didn't ask because I wasn't sure that someone would speak her name by name during the meal. Unluckily, however, I was a long way from her at the table. I was sitting next to Mrs. Gorman, and as usual, Mrs. Gorman was being very bright and amusing. Her conversation is always worth listening to, and I completely forgot to ask the name of the dark, proud girl. So there were 12 of us, including the Sangstons themselves. We were all young or trying to be young. Jack and Violet Sangston were the oldest, and their 17-year-old son, Reggie, and the youngest. It was Reggie who suggested Smee when the talk turned to games. He told us the rules of the game just as I've described them to you. So, Jack Sangston warned us all, if you're going to play games in the dark, he said, please be careful of the back stairs on the first floor. A door leads to them, and I have thought about taking the door off. In the dark, a stranger to the house could think they were walking into a room. A girl really did break her neck on those stairs. I asked how it had happened. It was about 10 years ago, before we came here, there was a party, and they were playing hide and seek. So this girl was looking for somewhere to hide. She heard somebody coming, and ran along the passage to get away. She opened the door, thinking it led to a bedroom. She planned to hide in there until the seeker had gone. Unfortunately, it was the door that led to the back stairs. She fell straight down to the bottom of the stairs. She was dead when they picked her up. We all promised to be careful. Mrs. Gorman even made a little joke about living to be 90. So you see, none of us had known the poor girl, and we did not want to feel sad on Christmas Eve. Well, we all started the game immediately after dinner. Young Reggie Sangston went around making sure all the lights were off, except the one in the servants' rooms, and even in the sitting room, we were. We then prepared 12 sheets of paper. 11 of them were blank, and one of them had Smee written on it. Reggie mixed them all up, then we took one. The person who got the paper with Smee on it had to hide. I looked at mine and saw that it was blank. A moment later, all the electric lights went out. In the darkness, I heard someone moving very quietly to the door. After a minute, somebody blew a whistle, and we were all rushed to the door. I had no idea who was Smee. For 5 or 10 minutes, we were all rushing up and down passages and in out of the rooms, challenging each other and answering Smee, Smee. After a while, the noise died down, and I guessed that someone had found Smee. After a time, I found a group of people all sitting on some narrow stairs. I challenged and received no answer, so Smee was there. I hurriedly joined the group. Presently, 2 more players arrived, each one hurrying to avoid being last. Jack Sangston was last, and was given a forfeit. "I think we're all here now, aren't we?" he remarked. He lit a match, looked up the staircase, and began to count. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, he said, and then laughed. "That's silly, there's too many." The match went out, and he lit another one and began to count. He got as far as 12, and then he looked puzzled. "There are 13 people here," he said. "I haven't counted myself yet." His son took out his electric torch. I'd give a better light than the matches, and we all began to count. Of course, there were 12 of us. Jack laughed. "Well," he said, "I wasn't sure I counted 13 twice." So, from halfway up the stairs, Violet Sangston spoke nervously. "I thought there was somebody sitting 2 steps above me." "Have you moved, Captain Ransom?" The captain said that he didn't. "But I thought there was something sitting between Mrs. Sangston and me." Just for a moment, there was an uncomfortable something in the air. A cold finger seemed to touch us all. For that moment, we all felt that something odd and unpleasant just happened, and was likely to happen again. Then we laughed at ourselves and at each other, and we felt normal again. There were only 12 of us, and that was that. Still laughing, we marched back to the sitting room to begin again. Wow. It's pretty interesting. It's a very interesting ghost story. So that's very that's kind of unnerving to know that there was no. Yeah, that's just really unnerving. I don't know if I care for that one. The fact that there was somebody else there, but it does remind me of that game where you clap. I don't know if that's a real game, or I don't know if that was just invented for The Conjuring, but that just kind of connected the dots. So what do you guys think? Do you guys tell ghost stories for Christmas or no? Alright guys, well, I hope you enjoy. I will see you all tomorrow. I love you all with all of my heart, all the way from Venus, all the way back down. And I will see you all tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoy. And yeah, I love you all, and thank you guys for watching.